Hi, everybody. Today we are going to finish chapter 17 of Hatchet. So, last time we read, Brian had survived the tornado, had survived being attacked by a moose, and he is starting to reconstruct his life there by the lake in the Canadian wilderness. But the perplexing thing that has happened is that the tail of the plane that had crashed into the lake has now emerged. And he sees that tail of the train. It reminded him that there was a survival pack in the back of that plane, that if it was where he thinks it is, it should be in that tail of the plane. So now he's thinking to himself, I've got to somehow get into that airplane and get that survival pack as well. That would make a big difference in his ability to survive. But he has to still take care of business. He still has to plan things out. He has to think things through, which is something that the new Brian is getting really good at, is making plans and thinking things through. And he also has to make sure that he has enough firewood and food to have energy and to survive, to carry out his plans. All right, here we go. Finishing of chapter 17. In the morning, the chill was more pronounced, and he could see tiny wisps of vapor from his breath. He threw wood on the fire and blew until it flamed, then banked the flames to last and went down to the lake. Perhaps because the air was so cool, the water felt warm as he waded in. He made sure the hatchet was still at his belt and the raft still held together, then set out pushing the raft and kick-swimming toward the tail of the plane. As before, it was very hard going. Once an eddy of breeze came up against him, and he seemed to be standing still, and by the time he was close enough to the tail to see the rivets in the aluminum, he had pushed and kicked for over 2 hours, and was nearly exhausted, and wished he had taken some time to get a fish or two and have breakfast. He was also wrinkled as a prune, and ready for a break. The tail looked much larger when he got next to it, with a major part of the vertical stabilizer showing and perhaps half of the elevators. Only a short piece of the top of the fuselage, the plane's body toward the tail, was out of the water. Now, time out. If you are wondering what the stabilizers are, what the elevators are, and hint, it's not like an elevator that you would find in the skyscraper, or what a fuselage is. In the first chapter, when they first started taking off, the pilot was explaining all of these things to Brian. So you can refer back to chapter 1 if you have a book, or that would be another opportunity to do a little Google search and a little research on planes if you are curious about planes. All right, back to the story. So the plane's body toward the tail was out of the water, just a curve of aluminum. And at first he could see no place to tie the raft. When he pulled himself along the elevators to the end, and there he found a gap that went in up by the hinges where he could feed his rope through. With the raft secured, he climbed on top of it and lay on his back for 15 minutes, resting and letting the sun warm him. The job, he thought, looked impossible. To have any chance of success, he would have to be strong when he started. Somehow he had to get inside the plane. All the openings, even the small rear cargo hatch, were underwater, so he couldn't get at them without diving and coming up inside the plane, where he would be trapped. He shuddered at that thought, and then remembered what was in front of the plane, down in the bottom of the lake, still strapped in the seat, the body of the pilot. Sitting there in the water, Brian could see him, the big man with his hair waving in the current, his eyes open. Stop, he thought. Stop now. Stop thinking. He was nearly at the point of swimming back to shore and forgetting the whole thing. But the image of that survival pack kept him. He could get it out of the plane, or if he could just get it out of the plane, or if he could just get into it and pull something out, a candy bar. Even that, just a candy bar. It would be worth it. But how to get at the inside of the plane? He rolled off the raft and pulled himself around the plane. No openings. 3 times he put his face in the water and opened his eyes and looked down. The water was murky, but he could see perhaps 6 feet, and there was no obvious way to get into the plane. He was blocked. Now, we're starting a new chapter, chapter 18, and we will start that tomorrow. Hint, check back in tomorrow because chapter 18 things get pretty interesting. All right, my friends, I miss you. It's always good to talk to you. I can't wait till we figure something out where I can talk and see you face to face. That would be really cool. All right, everybody, have a good day.